No? You want me to do it? You want to go?
I don't mind doing it. Big progress.
Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Southern Shores Town Council for Tuesday, September the 5th. If everybody could please stand and we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. We'll have a moment of silence. Thank you. Council, we have an agenda before us. Are there any amendments to this agenda, or will someone offer a motion to approve as presented?
I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Council, we have a consent agenda, which consists of a resolution, a proclamation, minutes approval, a surplus activity, and budget amendments 13 to 16. Are there any concerns about the consent agenda, or can we have a motion to approve?
I move that we approve the consent agenda items 1 through 5.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We now have some special presentations for tonight. Chief Cole, you going to start us off? Sure. Okay. We're very, very glad to have special presentations to our police department.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council, audience. The first one up is going to be Deputy Chief John Slagle. He's going to go over some of the most updated active shooter training that our officers, as well as some of the surrounding officers, participated in last month. And then after that, he's going to introduce another one of our officers, Jason Thompson, and he's going to go over a new program that we've just implemented. And I don't want to spoil his presentation, so that's all I'll say. Deputy Chief Slagle.
Very good. Deputy Chief, glad you're here tonight.
Well, thank you, Mayor, members of council. We wanted to highlight some of the training that we've been bringing to the town of Southern Shores, especially protecting our school and other large establishments. This year we brought what was called solo active shooter training. What this focused on was a solo response by officers, because most of the time officers like Officer Mann are in the school, they're by themselves rather than having other officers along with them, and they actively respond to an active threat by themselves. And what this did, it was focused on that training. We had Kitty Hawk Police Department. We had 7 officers attend. Kitty Hawk had 6, and then we had a representative from the Sheriff's Department and also from Currituck County Sheriff's Department. And it was hosted by us, and then also Kitty Hawk Police Department helped out along with that. The trainers involved in this was actually the head of the North Carolina Rapid Deployment Response. He actually wrote the lesson plan. So I actually reached out to him and coordinated him coming to us instead of us going to them. We used to send our officers one by one because they only accept 1 officer at a time into this program, and it's actually all the way in Asheville, North Carolina. So instead of our officers going one by one and having to travel all the way out there, I contacted him about a year ago, and he's a very busy person. A lot of this training is required, and so I actively reached out to him, and he was willing to bring the class to us. So we were actually able to hold it inside our own school, in our own area, which enhanced the training tremendously for all the officers, so they could actually train in their environment, in our school, And the Kitty Hawk Elementary School is 100% behind it, and they've been great with all the training we want to do inside their school. So this officer was 3 days of extensive training. The first day was a classroom training. Second days was actually on the range all day long. And then we had scenario training, which was actually in the school. And to cover each day a little bit so you understand the training a little bit, the classroom was to cover officers' mindset and mental preparation. A lot of times these schools, when we're doing active shooter training, we just go to the school, you practice, responding to an incident. But this one actually covered getting officers' mindset and mental preparation ready to go into an incident like that. So they're always prepared to actually enter a school, have to go after a shooter and have that mental mindset ahead of time. And then they went over moral and ethical justifications for using deadly force. An SRO, a lot of times, is the hardest person to try to engage someone like that. It might have been a former student. A lot of times in these active shooter situations, it might have been a student she actually taught or he taught. So getting that mindset and everything going. And then they went over aftercare. They gave us resources if an officer does go through a situation like this, what they can do afterwards to get themselves mentally prepared to come back to work. And then we went over lessons learned from previous incidents. Unfortunately, as you can see by the news, this happens on a daily basis a lot of times. So they go over what they've learned and what we can learn from them so we can actively respond to incidents better. And then mental care, as I said before. Then we covered, the good part about this course was they also covered wound care. So every officer were given tourniquets. We were trained on the tourniquets of how to use them. We do go over that every year, but this was more intense. So during the school, they would actually, all of a sudden out of nowhere, they would yell out, "Your left arm has been hurt." The officers had 30 seconds to get the tourniquet off, put it on themselves, or they would say, "Your partner's hurt." They would have to get across the classroom, put it on, and they did this all 3 days at the range and during the scenario training. They would just stop the training out of nowhere, and the officers would have to prepare themselves or help their fellow officers with wound care. And then at the end of the first day, we actually used the fire department, which I appreciate the use of the fire department from the fire chief. We actually, we went over entering rooms properly, clearing hallways and different things in there before we went to the school. So everybody got everything down before we went to the school. And the firearms on the range day, every officer shot approximately 300 rounds of ammunition. This was handgun and rifle drills. They went over shooting while moving. There was a lot of transition drills from the rifle to the handgun. So a lot of this stuff was covered. It was all day long. It was over 95 degrees out there. I commend all the officers. It was a long day. They were out there over 8 hours and it was nonstop. They did not take a break. The guy said, "If you need water, go get it. If you need something to eat, go get it," because it was just nonstop the whole day long. And then the officers had to pass a combat course at the end of the day to actually move on to the next day of training. And then the third day, the most important, we conducted the live simunition rounds at Kitty Hawk Elementary School. So this wasn't just fake guns. This was actually, the officers were getting hit by simunition rounds by an active shooter or a threat, but sometimes the threat wasn't a threat. So we did both threats and non-threats so officers could tell the difference between them. So they were given shoot and don't shoot scenarios. So everything was put together from the 2 days into this day. So it was very exciting, but it was very good at training. Advantages to having the local officers could train in the work environment, as I said. This was the most important thing. A lot of the officers in Kitty Hawk were brand new that attended this training, never been through it before. So they were actually able to go into our school, see what our school's like. There's a lot of challenges in there, which I'm not going to say why or when out here, but there's a lot of challenges in there of going through the school and working through the school when you have an active threat in there. So they got hands-on inside the school. And then I'm also excited that we're also going to be bringing another active shooter school next month to our area. We applied for a grant and from the Texas State University. So they're going to be what's called alert training. It's advanced law enforcement rapid response training to our school. This is going to be a 2-day course. It's also going to be at the fire department and the school. And it's funded by the Texas State University. It's a federal grant. This school, what's different between this and solo active shooter, this one actually is a response by a team. So we're going to be working together as a team if we have enough people to go in. They're also going to work on room entry techniques and also breaching. If we can't get into a door or can't get into an area, they're going to work on breaching and different things like that. And it's also going to work on scenario training involving sim rounds. So there's going to be live rounds again the second day. So we're excited to bring that next month also. So we're really getting back into having a lot of training in the school. So we just wanted to update you all on this a little bit and show you the training that we're doing at the school and also for the other businesses in town. So any questions?
It's great to see you being proactive because it looks like it was pretty intense.
Oh yeah, it's a pretty, I went through it several years ago. It's a pretty intense course, and some of the officers actually went through it before, and there was a lot of changes made, like the tourniquets and different things like that, and actually the long guns. Before it was only handguns, so there's a lot of changes made over the years. So it's nice to bring it back pretty often if we can. So, all right.
If, God forbid, we ever had an incident there, I imagine Southern Shores is the first to respond.
Oh yeah. Well, Tracy's usually at the school, so
She's at
yes.
the, all right, okay. And then once all law enforcement starts responding, who's in charge?
The first person's on charge until the next highest command arrives on scene, and then they take over.
Okay,
So the officers are trained right away. They're going to be in charge. But to be honest with you, if there's an active shooter going on,
yeah,
the officers are going in. There's going to be nobody
waiting.
as a command right away. You're going to take, our training is to go to the threat and neutralize the threat first.
Yeah, the
And
only
then
reason,
we'll take command at that
the
point.
only reason I ask is you read about what's happened around the country where there was reluctance on the part of somebody. to
Yeah,
take
there's a
charge.
lot of, some of it's been lack of people going in. I don't understand that because
Yeah.
we've always been trained for years
Yeah,
that you don't wait anymore. You don't wait for a team to arrive. You don't wait for anybody else. We go. And that's what this whole shooting was, shooting exercises were about, was you actively going in by yourself and having that mindset to do it.
Okay.
So,
okay, good to know. Thanks.
Great effort.
thank you.
Thank you so much, Deputy Chief. You can see the council is just, impressed and grateful for, especially
And-
95 degrees, 300 rounds at the firing range all day.
It was a
Man,
day.
That's a
Well,
lot of
they-
shooting.
They made it through. If it hit over a certain heat index, we actually had to leave, and it was staying about 3 under it, so I was so happy. So,
Where is the firing range?
Nax said,
Oh, you went down there. Okay.
yes, sir. All right, next we have Officer Thompson. He's going to go over Project Lifesaver with us.
Welcome, Officer Thompson. We're glad you're here with us tonight.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, Mayor, Councilman, audience. My name is Officer Thompson. I'm fairly new to Southern Shores Police Department, but I've been put in charge of Project Lifesaver. Project Lifesaver is a project that was started in Virginia to help locate people with cognitive disabilities that have a tendency to wander. To be a part of this project, you need to contact us through my email or the department directly. You'll fill out an application. Once you've been approved for the project, we give you a little transponder. It is attached on by a bracelet or anklet, and we search by a receiver. And the receiver picks up, it is silent, it is odorless, they can decorate it, they can make it their own. And it helps us locate these individuals within minutes instead of hours. I believe our last individual that we had missing, it took 4 hours to locate, and she was just around the corner. So this will take it from 4 hours down to anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes, if not quicker. People have been located on this project inside the house because parents have missed people or caregivers have missed the individual. They've said they've looked everywhere and they've been located in a crawl space. And then we come out, we turn on this as soon as we get the call, and we start looking, and it starts picking up a signal. Deputy Chief? I'll give you a quick little show of how this goes and how it sounds. Hear the beep? That is the signal that's being sent out. This is on the second to lowest range. If I turn away, hear how it gets quieter. So the closer you get to the transmitter, the louder the beep is, which allows us to locate the individual a whole lot quicker. Any questions?
How will you publicize this to residents of Southern Shores? I mean, aside from here tonight, is it going to be,
It's going to be on our Facebook. We've got some pamphlets. We also had Jennifer made up some cards for us with a QR code. If you scan the QR code, it'll take you directly to the pamphlet with all the information. And I'm more than happy to hand some of these out to council members and mayor.
And I know we have the Dementia Friendly Coalition here in our community with a couple of folks in Southern Shores that are quite active in that group. And so you guys have all, I'm sure, have already reached out to them.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
And this is not just for dementia.
Right,
This
it
is
can be-
for any cognitive disability, even traumatic brain injury. If an individual has any of those and has a tendency to wander, even autism has a tendency to wander, they can be put on this list and we can have them signed up.
Very good.
Okay?
Is this something we can put in our newsletter?
Thank you.
That'd be one, good way to get it out
Thank you, sir.
and on our website.
thank you.
And do you know, Officer Thompson, if other towns in Dare County or the Sheriff's Department is also involved with this project?
Kill Devil Hills and Dale, yeah,
So no to Kitty Hawk, Nags Head, and Manio so far?
so far.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Great job.
Wonderful.
Appreciate it so much.
I got the question if there was a charge for it. It is absolutely free to the individual and their family. It's taken care of through Project Lifesaver.
Very good.
Good to know.
Good question. Glad we got that out. Okay. Thank you, gentlemen, very much for those excellent and informative presentations. That was really
Yeah.
cool.
Very good.
We're going to move on our agenda to staff reports, and we're going to hear from our Deputy Town Manager and Planning Director, Wes Haskett. Good evening, Wes.
Good evening, Mayor. Mayor and members of council, I have a brief report for y'all tonight for the month of August. There were a total of 64 permits issued. Those consisted of 13 zoning permits, 25 building permits. 3 of those were for new construction, 3 lot disturbance stormwater management permits, 22 trade permits, and 1 sign permit. The total amount of fees that we collected in August was $29,734.42. With respect to code enforcement in August, there were 15 warning citations mailed for solid waste ordinance violations. And with respect to the planning board, their next regular meeting is scheduled for September 18th at 5 o'clock here in the Pitt Center. The purpose is for the board to consider SUP-2301. This is the same application I reported on at the last meeting, council meeting. They were going to consider this application on August 21st. However, not all the planning board or a quorum of planning board members could not attend that meeting. So that's been pushed back to the September 18th meeting. And that's the special use permit application for the mixed use development at 6195 North Croatan Highway. The board may also consider amendments to the board's rules of procedure if time permits. Any questions?
The sign permit, is that 500?
I believe it was.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
They applied for a variance. They weren't given the variance. They reduced the size of the sign and they were issued a permit for a sign that meets the requirements.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Do you know if they're going to be opening soon?
I have not heard an opening
Okay.
date. The building inspector is there at least once, sometimes twice a week.
Okay,
But I'm not aware of an opening date at this point.
very good. Thanks. Any other questions for Wes, council?
Looks good.
Thank you, sir.
All right,
Appreciate
yep,
it so much.
You're welcome.
Chief Cole, you want to catch us up? I think we've got a buku of data from you. Welcome back
Thank
from
you.
vacation, by the way.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, members of council, once again. We have a double header. I owe you 2 months. So we'll start with July. For the month of July, we had 1,756 calls for service. Compared to last year, we had 2,061, so that's 305 less. And when I checked that, July, we were down 4 officers, plus the one that was off on maternity. So the traffic stops, they were 73 compared to about 111 for the year before, for the same month of July. And then we were also down quite a few of the extra patrols. We were down 52 compared to last year. As you can see, we had 9 incidents, which resulted in 10 total charges. The one drug was marijuana. Folks in Virginia still can't believe that it's still illegal in North Carolina. Let's see, we had the boat fire, which I think the chief had already spoken on. We had a fraud, and one was lost property. We had 1 criminal arrest. As far as citations, out of that 73 traffic stops for July, officers issued 15 written citations, which resulted in 18 total charges. And then another 60 warning citations. 20 of those were for stop sign violations, and I believe quite a few of those, from when I checked, were on South Dogwood. Ordinance violations, which were 103, and most of those were our CRO, our Community Resource Officer, was busy issuing parking tickets for violations. And we had 15 traffic accidents that were reportable for the month of July. Any questions on July? August 2023, we had 1,641 calls for service. Actually, compared to last year, we were up 74. And one officer had come back from maternity leave by August 1st, so we were only down 3. 12 incidents. As you can see, we had another one that was drug-related, and that was a traffic stop with marijuana. Also, drug equipment, paraphernalia. And we had 2 warrants, one breaking and entering, reported motor vehicle theft. And under the criminal arrest, we had 2 that were arrested on the warrants, one for the drugs and the drug equipment, 2 for damaging property, and 1 alcohol underage drinking, for a total of 7 charges. Officers conducted 87 traffic stops. Out of that 87 stops, 13 written citations for 15 total charges. Warning citations, there were 61 of those. Again, several of those, 21 of those, the majority of those were for stop sign violations as well, and speeding. Ordinances, starting to slow down a little bit. Summer's winding down. There were 42 parking violations that were issued, and we had another 11 motor vehicle accidents that were actually reported. Compared to last year, we had 4 for the month of August.
Between the 2 months, we had
That's all I have. Questions? Thank you.
Is that no Hellman? Is that on bikes?
I believe that was,
There's 2 no helmet.
yeah, those were, I believe they were bikes.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Chief Limbacher, welcome.
Evening, Mayor, Council. So for the month of August, Fire Department responded to 74 calls, and that puts us two in front of last year, a little bit ahead this month. Pretty simple breakdown: 3 structure fires, 1 cooking fire, 1 natural vegetation fire, which was a small mulch fire outside of steamers, 42 EMS calls, 1 vehicle accident with injury, EMS transported 3, 1 with no injury, 1 hazardous condition, which wound up just being a kite in the power line off one of the avenues, a gas leak, which was the pizza stop, a faulty pilot light on the stove, 9 service calls, which we all know is the wheelchair program or smoke detector program, and the address signs, 1 steam or water leak, 1 public service, 5 dispatched and canceled en route, 6 alarms, and 1 citizen complaint. Also wanted to note that Cherry Wheeler, our chaplain, was dispatched to or deployed to Florida for the hurricane victims. So she'll be down there for the next week. So any questions on this report here? I did have a quick PowerPoint for you all. Try not to take too much of your time. It's very quick, but I did think it was worth noting this month. So this is the duck fire. And what I'm trying to show you here is the how quick these develop. This film was taken by a passerby as engine 11 arrived, so they were probably 3 minutes out, if that. And it looked pretty much the same when the police pulled up. They were a block away when it happened. So Sheila, if you want to just play this.
Is that a house? It is a house. I'm like, I should be recording this. I feel like, dude.
As you see, they're just pulled up, just establishing a water supply. So you can see how fast these things develop. And the matter is still under investigation, but it looks like it's possibly a lightning strike. So that's how quickly these things develop. It's just with the conditions down here in the wind-driven fire, it's very, very quick. So that's the front of the house, the rear of the structure. And then this is what 12 sent them. So Southern Insurance sent them our deputy chief, which is normally what I would do. I typically don't leave town. We sent them engine 124 with 5, our utility truck with 3, our rehab with 5, and rescue 122 with 1. And we also had 8 at the station for calls here in Martins Point and in town of Southern Shores, which we did answer 1 medical call while they were gone. So we got back from that at probably 11:30 at night. We were all cleaned up, went home, went to sleep, and we're back up at 2:20 in the morning for this one, which, as we all know, is the KDH fire. This is what it looked like upon their engine pulling up. Again, very, very quick response. It's probably 2 minutes from their station. And again, this is kind of what it looked like when they pulled up. That's the front of it when it was left. Here we sent them our deputy chief again, 124 with 6, 123 with 4, rehab with 3, and then we had 4 at the station. So granted, these guys only got about 3 hours sleep and they're back up again. Most of them had to go to work the next day. So a total of 18 there. And then a week later, we're in Collington. This is the front, that's the front of the building, the rear of the building on the condo complex. The first in crew here did a really, really outstanding job. Collington's crew did a good job on this fire. There we sent them 124 with 4, rescue 121 with 3, rehab with 3, and then 7 at the station for calls for 17. I would just say this, that I'm a big proponent on dealing with the incident we have at hand, but I never strip the town where we're going to be in a problem here. But it does really help that we can send them that kind of manpower to the situation. Most people are sending an engine crew with 4 where we're sending them, 10, 12, 15 guys sometimes. So just a little feather in the cap for the guys at the fire department, all putting their time in. So I just want you to know what we're facing when we pull up and what it looks like a lot of times. It's just a fast developing fire. And obviously the KDH was an unfortunate thing. We never want to see that kind of work out, but sometimes our best just isn't good enough. So any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
It's always yeah. Thank you. We appreciate you reminding all of us just how important the job our volunteer fire department folks do for the community. Totally grateful, always. Thanks. Now we'll hear from our town manager. Good evening, Cliff.
Good evening. Thank you. First, I just wanted to talk about the Juniper Trinity Culvert. So if you remember, when we first started this process back in January, I think, when we got Kimley Horn under contract for the Cord Slab Bridge, the first contract they presented us had 12 tasks in it. And we eventually got that whittled down to do the first 5. And the reason we did that was we didn't want Kimley Horn to get too far down the road while we were waiting on the decision from the Coast Guard as to whether or not we could lower the height of the bridge. If they got ahead of themselves and they were doing work on other tasks that was affected by that decision, then it would negate some of that work. They may have to go back and redo things. But so what you all approved is task order 1 in March had 5 tasks. And we're at the point now where we know we're going to be able to lower the bridge. So we've got to bring to you the remaining tasks in the next contract, to amend the contract we're under now. We'll do that in October. The 5 tasks that they're working on now, the environmental, geotech, the topographic survey, the subsurface utility investigation, document review and coordination, they've just about completed all of those tasks. The original schedule had us go into contract in June of 24, and we're still, the new schedule that came out today, and David Bradley and I are going to sit down on a telephone call with Kimley Horn to go through that timeline to make sure we fully understand it. But the going to letting the contract is still June of 24. The good news, we had been so hopeful that we were going to be able to lower the height. As you know, it allows us to improve the line of sight. It's going to be better for drivers. It's going to be better aesthetically. You're not going to be driving up to this big concrete slab bridge. We'll be able to get it lowered. Once we know for sure, and it's based on the 100-year flood, we'll have to have the height of the bridge. So we could be somewhere around 8 feet. Once we know for sure, we'll contact all of the property owners that abut the canal on the inside of the inside of, I guess, the east side of the culvert to make sure they're aware and we get their input, because they'll be most affected, I think, by that height. So that's good news. We're very thankful to finally have that, and we'll be coming back in October with the new task order with the other 7 tasks. Any questions on that?
Did you say let the contract the next June?
Yep.
Construction would come
Soon after.
When?
It would be soon after that. And I know, part of the concern would be the summer months. But I think by the time we can get a contract out there and they start the work, it's probably going to be around this time next year. I said that
All the residents north of that are going to have to go around.
for a period of time, yes, sir. And there's also a period of time where we can't be working in the water because of the designation of, the waters. I don't know if it's not a primary nursery area, but I think it is SAV waters.
Mhm.
And there's a period of time we can't, but we can, there's very little that's required. All right, so following up on last Tuesday's public forum for the pass, and I want to thank the police department for doing a much better job tonight with their technology than I did at that meeting Tuesday night. Thank you for that. So when we first started that meeting, this is the conceptual plan that we put out in front of folks. This form, if you go to the town website, there's 6 icons on the front page. The third one from the right contains the news. If you click on that icon, you go to the news about the public forum, you'll see this form for folks that we're still asking to get input from. This was just what we had conceptually planned. This is not anything that was set in stone, not budgeted. It was just something that we were seeking public input on. Can I? So, and I think there's probably going to be some public comment tonight about pass. But if we were to, it almost seemed like this would be our new, after coming out of that meeting Tuesday night, this would be what we heard. But I mean, this got the reaction that I was hoping, a laugh. But we're hearing from folks that don't exactly agree with this. And so we still need to take some time. We still need to get some input. But I did want to go ahead and kind of move forward with kind of a smaller plan while we take a breath and we figure out what, if anything, we're going to do moving forward. The first priority on NC-12, we had the pre-bid meeting today to let this contract. We had 4 contractors at that meeting, which is really encouraging.
Yeah.
That project will go from the Triangle to East Dogwood. I do think we should continue that progress, and I'll show you in just a minute. I don't know that we need to go all the way to Hillcrest. 13th Avenue as we had originally proposed. I do think we can split that up from East Dogwood to Hickory or East Dogwood all the way to Hillcrest in one shot, or we could divide these up. The other thing that I think makes sense is on Skyline Road from the cut through on Chickasaw Properties Owners Association on the north side to 12, and I'll show you that. And then through some of the comments, somebody presented an idea on Juniper Trail that just kind of makes sense to me that I want to show you. So if we stick to the original plan, what we would have done was applied for a tourism impact grant on 12 from East Dogwood all the way up to 13th. That's a little over 1.5 miles. But what I'm suggesting is you consider going ahead and applying for this grant. We can either apply for the 1/2 mile, which would be from East Dogwood to Hickory, and then apply maybe in the 3rd year for Hickory up to Hillcrest, or we could apply for the entire distance. Based on what we're engineered probable cost of what we're letting now, the difference in these 2 projects would be about close to $500,000. If we left out this, the point was made that if we didn't include Hillcrest to 13th Avenue, there's not a lot of property that would be impacted. There's 10 properties on the west side of that path. There's 13 properties on the east side of that. So I think from that, if we added that, it'd be a 2-mile project. So I think we can break this up. So again, my recommendation would be we would go ahead and apply for a tourism impact grant to do the first phase, and then in the next year we'd do kind of 1C. All right, so this is Skyline Drive. If you look at you can see the existing path, the paved path that cuts through from Skyline to, Spindrift to Skyline, or Skyline to Spindrift. If we were to connect about 1,000 feet of sidewalk, it would be on the north side of Skyline from that cut through to NC-12. It would impact the right-of-way in front of 4 properties. 1's not developed and 3 are. And coincidentally, when I was looking at this, I took a screenshot on Google Maps. This is looking from where the path would connect to Skyline, looking down Skyline Drive. This is on random, and you can see 2 people in a baby stroller and a person up ahead. I don't know if they're tourists. I don't know that it matters. I don't know if they're residents. What I do know is there's 3 people and a baby in the middle walking in the side of the road. So we could potentially get them on a sidewalk, but it has to make engineering sense. We're not going to put a sidewalk where we're going to create a stormwater project. So I don't have the answers to those, but I do think this is something we should consider. And the other one on Juniper, if you follow the red line, if you're on a bicycle or you're walking on Juniper headed south to 158, you have to cross over towards the food line, walk all the way down to 158, and then cross 158. If we were to just simply connect where that green line is, folks could just stay straight and connect. I don't think that would have a big, there's some very nice landscaping that Town Bank has in that section, so we'd have to get around that hurdle. But I don't think it creates a stormwater or other issue, and that's a very small, low-hanging fruit. I think that makes sense to me. We're not dissimilar from the path we're going to try and get.
That's good. I mean, I see a lot of people on Ocean View Loop who go up there too. They're coming off the beach access there where there's parking, actually better parking than Skyline if you're a city resident right there. And then going up Ocean View Loop, taking the connector and then heading up that way too. Both ways. Yeah, okay.
Okay,
All
so
right. But we're talking about general funds for Skyline and Juniper is what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
And probably maintenance now from what the mayor discovered.
That's right.
And so, but the fund grants is just the first two.
Yes, sir.
And the Triangle East Dogwood is we already have the money for that.
Correct.
Yeah, that's already been approved.
Yeah, part of the other grant last year. All right.
Okay. I think it makes sense to come back to this after.
All right.
yeah, I think that was a
public
great
comment.
idea by Paul. Thank you.
All
So
right.
we'll get back to this discussion after we have public comment.
And then just real quickly, I wanted to go back to, and partly to show the council the improvements that were made to the Public Works facility as a way of saying thank you, and at the same time recognizing the Public Works Department for all the work that they do and they continue to do, and they've done through some pretty intense heat. This shows gives an idea of where the Public Works would eat lunch, where they'd have meetings, where they would assemble in an area like this. And so we were able to make some improvements. They have a kitchen now. They have a microwave. They have a refrigerator. They're able to eat in conditioned space. They have a bathroom and a shower. They've got a meeting room where they can, again, that last week during some downtime, they had a safety luncheon. And so they have places that they can do that now. So I just wanted to show you the improvements that were done there. They just recently oversaw the improvements that have happened here at the Pitt Center. You remember the two fake doors that were over there are now gone. We have a working door over here now. And it's not because of the path meeting that I needed to duck out real quick, but it's there now. They've painted, the building's been painted. Tomorrow or the day after, we're going to start improvements to this porch, the north facing or west facing porch from the Pitt Center is going to be removed and replaced. And so that work continues to go. They just finished the 3 miles repaving project of the 37 miles of streets that we maintain here in town. That maintenance that is included with the work they do, it includes the pothole repair, maintenance of the town-owned street right-of-ways, swells, drainage, erosion control. They've got 3 bridges and a culvert. Hopefully they'll have 4 bridges soon and no culvert to keep up with the inspections of those. 7 miles of canals, removing trees that get dumped in those canals. They oversee the Lemon Branch program. They maintain a large inventory of signs in the maintenance of this building, town hall, police department, the public works shop. They maintain a cemetery, storm preparation and cleanup, trash debris, and unfortunately, a lot of dead animal removal is included. And in the month of August, that was nowhere near fun. So I just want to thank the Public Works Director, David Bradley, the Supervisor, Forrest Hood, Frankie Powers, Ray Scott, part-time employee Frank Dunn, and I'm not going to say his name because I don't want to jinx it, but we got a new hire that'll be starting Monday. And so that will give us a full staff in Public Works.
Great.
So, and this, one other thing, this is, if you've seen the shed that's being built behind one of the ball fields, the bat ball field at Kitty Hawk Elementary School, when the renovations are happening at the East Dogwood Fire Department, EMS station, Public Works had a bay there, and it just didn't make sense to commingle Public Works with fire and EMS. And so as a concession, the county is building this facility for us to house some heavier equipment in. And this is actually an old picture. I think it's progressed much faster than that.
Looks like a real building now.
Yes.
Okay. Thank
It
you.
does. I mean, I can't believe how fast they put that thing up. It's a real bit. Thank you, Cliff. Yes, and so I think Paula mentioned at the last month's meeting that she and I were able to go on a brief little tour of the Public Works improvements over there at their building, and it was really very impressive. And thank you for listing all the things that they do for us in the heat, in the snow, in the sleet, in the hurricane aftermath, and also pre-hurricane. They do a lot for our community, and we're very, very grateful for all the work that they do for us. Thanks. Okay, next on our list is our town attorney, Robert Hobbs.
Thank you.
Welcome. Glad you're
Mayor.
here tonight with us.
Thank you. The only thing I have on my agenda this evening deals with your purchase of Skyline, 13 Skyline Road. As you know, you're under contract to purchase that. We're in the final stages of getting that finalized. A couple things I've placed at your desk, what I hope is pretty close to a final version of an encroachment agreement or easement that pertains to the situation where the building on this property slightly encroaches over into the adjoining property. And this is a customary way of addressing that recognizes the existence of the encroachment, but doesn't require the structure to be moved or changed in any way. And the way this is worded is that it would remain in place for as long as the building is there. So if the building is demolished or if it is substantially destroyed, then the permission would terminate. We're still in negotiating the final wording of this, but this is the pretty close to what it's going to be. There may be some non-substantive wording changes. So I've also placed at your seat the proposed motion to sort of finalize everything, and I'll just read it for you. It's a proposed motion that the town proceed with the closing of its purchase of the property located at 13 Skyline Road in Southern Shores from the Outer Banks Community Foundation, that the purchase contract and all amendments are hereby approved and ratified, that the mayor and town manager are hereby authorized to approve and sign any documents relating to the closing of the purchase of the property, that the encroachment easement that I just mentioned between the town and Southern Shores Realty is hereby approved, subject to any final non-substantive wording changes which the town manager is hereby authorized to approve, and that the town manager is hereby authorized to contract for the removal of the existing underground fuel tank that was formerly used with the property by a former owner of the property. So that is the proposed motion that I've provided for you, and certainly can entertain any questions about that.
Anybody have any questions for Robert?
No,
All right,
no,
so,
just need to move on.
so since the motion's been put into record, can we just ask for a second?
You can, and I'll provide your town clerk with a copy of the motion.
Okay, so the motion's on the floor. Is there someone who would like to provide a second for this motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion? Ready to vote?
Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Robert. Appreciate it.
Thank you much.
When's our proposed closing date?
We are hoping to close it on Thursday. But that's subject to everything coming into place, but that's the plan right now.
Thank you, Robert. Is that the rest, that's all you have for us this evening?
Yes,
correct?
ma'am, unless there are any other questions.
I don't believe there are.
No, but we thank you for your hard work on this.
Yeah, that was a lot.
Nothing's ever easy.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so we've come to the point in our agenda, so we're going to entertain and listen attentively to general public comment. And all that I would ask is when I call your name, if you would come up to the podium, tell us your name and where you live, and we will sit here and listen attentively to what you have to say. Mr. Jim Gould.
Hello, good evening, Mayor, members of council, and members of the public. My My name is Jim Gould. I live at 213 South Woodland Drive, I believe is the proper name. So I'm coming here to you this evening as a father with a 18-month-old and a beautiful wife, and we intend to live in this community for a long time. As of right now, we're not a roadway that's got proposed sidewalks along it, but that's what I wanted to speak about this evening. So there are multiple, we walk all of the time. We walk twice a day, more often than not, with our dog and our kid, and the kid's either running beside us some haphazardly or in the stroller, and the dog is on a leash or sometimes off the leash. But I'll tell you what, there are days where we do not feel safe walking down certain roadways in our community, in our tree-lined, quaint community. And that is because, of course, of the vehicular traffic that passes us by. In particular on Hickory, from East Dogwood all the way up to Hillcrest, or when walking to gain access to the beautiful park that exists on CEO's Trail. So we feel as though it's unsafe and that sidewalks would make a big difference. Now, noting what the town manager said earlier this evening about recommending sidewalks heavily along NC 12, the thing that comes to mind is that, well, NC 12 already has a sidewalk. We have that eastern at some points and western at some points access that promotes a safe walking environment or a bicycling environment or a wheelchair environment. However you want to roll along, it promotes a safe environment. But I ask that we please don't forget about those improvements in the community, deeper into the woods, we'll say. I think that the town of Southern Shores is primed for these improvements, given that there's been a large increase in tourism and therefore traffic to our north. And we are consistently used as a cut through at least 4 months out of the year. So I would ask that you just don't forget those, don't table them and then have them collect cobwebs. Keep figuring out ways where we can have these sidewalks, because I know that traffic doesn't flow quickly through our neighborhoods, but I think the last thing that we want is a civilian, a dog, a child to be used as a traffic calming measure. Right, that's exactly what we don't want. And yeah, I look forward to seeing the future plans, and I'll certainly pay a lot more attention. And I appreciate all the work that has gone into it with the staff, with the council, everyone who's been involved with getting the grant together, and appreciate the funding coming from the county. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mark LeBlanc?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I'm Mark LeBlanc. I live at 9 10th Avenue. My remarks, I should say, are limited to myself. I'm not sure my spouse totally agrees with my viewpoint. I wanted to comment on the sidewalk debate, and the gentleman just commented. I would share his sentiments. There's a maxim, demographics is destiny, which is attributed to Auguste Comte, the father of modern sociology. And whether he said it or not, I think it's relevant to the debate about sidewalks. I was agnostic on sidewalks before the meeting, except that I would not favor any additional sidewalk on the west side of 12 because of the water issue and because it may further slow traffic on that particular artery. I was surprised at the vigor and the level of opposition to sidewalks. The opponents, I would respectfully suggest, all tend to be older, and I am in this age cohort also. Most of the opponents don't have full-time small children, although I think most have dogs, which for many people is about the same thing. I live on the ocean side of 12 amongst many renters, so I guess I don't have a dog in this hunt, and I don't have a dog anyway. But one sidewalk supporter was a parent with small children, and she noted that the meeting's timing, 5 p.m. on a school day, was less than opportune. But for me, like many retirees, this really wasn't an issue. The time wasn't a problem for me because I don't work and I don't have any young kids. Many opponents spoke forcefully about their expectations that in moving here from someplace else, they did not envision having sidewalks. But they didn't move to a 55 or better community. Many or some spoke about their long connections to the community. But with respect to those people, I would say that their longevity, we can benefit from their experience and their knowledge of the community, but I don't think that gives them special deference or consideration, or special status, I should say. I'm respectfully hopeful that we'll be responsive to other people's needs, especially parents. I welcome children. I think it makes the town a better place. So it seems to me that starting with those roads that lead to the ocean or to the parks or playgrounds or schools, let's consider offering sidewalks. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Bill Ferretti.
Oh, yes.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I want to speak on two topics. First, I'll weigh in on sidewalks real quick. As a criteria, I think it's important that you look at sightlines. And there are certain areas in our town where sidewalk may be appropriate for a section of road due to sightline issues. The one in particular I think of is Hickory coming up the hill from East Dogwood. Just again, not advocating putting sidewalks in as a whole, but saying, hey, at least that should be a criteria. Part of the criteria is sightlines. But really my point in speaking today, I'm going to switch topics, is I want to congratulate the town and the police department for becoming a Project Lifesaver agency. I'm a retired 911 director from the DC area, an agency that was a long-term Project Lifesaver participant, and it's very, very successful. It saves a ton of resources and provides the community with a real asset. And not only the residents, but if you look at the Project Lifesaver website, you will see that there are agencies and jurisdictions up and down the East Coast from which we pull our visitors that are Project Lifesaver participants. So it's also that you maybe have finding that we have visitors that could benefit from us being able to help locate them. The technology is true. It's tried. It's been tested. For those that don't maybe thinking, well, you know, I have an Apple Watch and that can find me through satellites. It's true. It can when you're outside, but not when you're hiding in the house somewhere. And certainly my Apple Watch is good for about a day. And the charging, the ability to charge something like this, you know, for satellite-based technology, that's just not here yet. And Project Lifesaver solved that a long time ago. So again, I just want to congratulate the town and the police department for implementing the program. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it so much.
Thank you.
A couple of additional folks want to speak to us. Allison Berryman. Good evening.
Good evening.
Pull your mic down.
Oh, Lord.
There you go.
Thank you. I'm nervous. This is not my jam. But I do think it's important to talk about sidewalks. I am a mother of 4 young kids. Well, they're getting older. But so I am pro sidewalks. I'm very excited to see that Skyline's on there. I live at 37 Skyline. And I definitely would love to have a sidewalk in front of my house. I encourage that. I'd be ecstatic. I think we can do it with controlling stormwater, creating wildlife habitat, and not making it seem too urban. I feel like we can work together to hear everyone's needs and still make it happen and keep our children safe. And thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Lulu, do you want to come talk to us? Fantastic.
What's Lou's last
Berryman.
name? Oh, okay. I didn't know.
She's almost as tall as me.
Hi, everybody. My name is Lulu Berryman, and I live on Skyline Road. I have a twin sister and a cousin that lives on the trail. Me and my sister, we love to go to our cousin's house, but we walk there and we walk up and down the road. And I feel like it would be much safer if we have a sidewalk. And whenever I go tell my parents, they always say, make sure you're safe, stay on the side of the road. And I feel like if we have a sidewalk, it'd be much more helpful for the drivers and the walkers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We appreciate it. Good job. Yeah, I often do this. If anyone has changed their mind, did not sign the form, and you'd still like to come up and talk to us, we're happy to listen. Okay. We're going to move on to the next item on our agenda, which is old business. Beach nourishment, maintenance, and monitoring plan. Cliff.
Just a little baller. So the Wes presented the beach nourishment maintenance plan to you, or gave you a draft of it at your meeting last month. We wanted to make sure you were comfortable with this. Wasn't a huge urgency to get this adopted, but we are asking tonight for a motion to approve the beach nourishment maintenance and monitoring plan. Of course, this does several things. It holds us accountable to the public. We'll report to the public how the sand that we placed on the beach, how it's holding up, where it's going, where it's moved. It also holds us accountable to conditions placed in the Code of Federal Regulations, that if we have this maintenance and monitoring plan and we adhere to it, we're eligible to receive funding to replace sand that we lose during a declared storm. If we lose any sand to a hurricane, then we're eligible to get some of this back. Because we're with the other three towns, there's some moving parts to each one of our maintenance plans. The idea is that we won't nourish before 5 years. We're not going to stack debt on top of debt. The projection is we'll be somewhere around 375,000 cubic yards short in 5 years. If a hurricane, there's so much difference between our beaches, even though we're so close, it's not inconceivable that one of us would lose enough to be able to declare under these conditions and one of us not. So we can apply for federal assistance separate and apart from the other three towns. And when it comes time to re-nourish, we'll just have to make the decision at that time. If we don't have to, if it makes economic sense for us to go ahead and nourish. There's one thing I wanted to include in the draft you had. There was some missing language from the dune vegetation, and how that reads is, forgive me for reading, but as part of the 22-23 project, the town planted American beach grass between the southern town boundary and 104 Ocean Boulevard, as well as between 132 Ocean Boulevard to Hickory Trail. This equates to 12,400 feet of approximately 2.3 miles of the approximately 3.7 mile long project. The American beach grass was planted in late fall and winter of 22 to promote trapping of windblown sand. The town plans to resume planting of American beach grass in November 2023. And so we've still got funds that we can supplement these areas. I said that fast, but I get it right. Okay. We can supplement that remaining 1.4 miles and hope to get that done this fall. So that language is included in what we're asking you to adopt tonight, approve tonight.
Okay. Do we have any idea how the beach grass is holding up, Len?
It's doing great.
Len says it's doing great.
It's actually,
2 thumbs up.
it's actually getting covered by all the wind with the sand.
Yeah.
The sand fence is getting covered. So we might get another second row of sand fence.
Okay. So beach grass is good,
That's good.
sand fence is good, and we're going to finish the beach grass planting in the fall.
Yes, ma'am.
And so just a little context on it does matter what the town to the north and the towns to the south do in terms of beach nourishment for the next phase, because we tend to do things together, because we do those shared costs of all of the staging of the contractor, equipment, et cetera. Mobilization, I think is the term, yeah. So we don't want to do a project if we don't need a project, but we are going to be influenced by what's going on to the south and north of us. Is that about right?
That's right. And that's why I said you may be in a position where you have to make a tough decision. We don't have to renourish in 5 years. Hopefully we don't. Hopefully it's 6 or 7. If we haven't lost the trigger that we're required to put back on the beach at the time that the other beaches or towns are doing their project, and we decide not to supplement our beach with some sand, then we run the risk of either going it alone from then on or waiting 6 or 7 years before those 3 towns come back to do another project. So it's a tough question to answer right now, but it is one you're going to be forced to make.
And so every year, do they take measurements once a year or twice a year?
Once a year.
Once a year.
And it's done usually ahead of, sometime in June, so we can capture as much sand as we can during the storm season. If we get it in June, then we know, and we have a better idea if we lose sand in October, as we would if you run the risk of losing all that other sand that's not accounted for.
Okay. And also, if we had a nor'easter and we actually lost sand in the wintertime, or
Unfortunately,
even on Memorial Day, because we often have nor'easters on Memorial Day.
yeah, we wouldn't be eligible, and probably not for a nor'easter to be
Right,
reimbursed
yeah.
for.
Just in terms of
But
what the measurement tells us.
it does eat into what we have to put back on the beach in order to maintain our plan.
But now, Cliff, you have a sentence in your report that says, the maintenance plan allows the town to be eligible for the public assistance. Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
How it's laid out in the Code of Federal Regulations is, in order to be the beach has to be an improved beach. The beach has to be, which means the beach was constructed by the placement of sand of proper grain size to a designated elevation, width, and slope. A maintenance program involving periodic nourishment of sand must have been established and adhered to by the applicant. So what that means is you can't ask for sand if you're not doing these things. If you're not maintaining the beach, if you haven't engineered the beach, if you hadn't checked all the hoops. Under that public assistance, beaches are letter J. So there are categories all the way up to this point that you're eligible to receive funding under. J just happens to be beaches, and that's how they determine.
So we have to have
eligibility.
a maintenance plan.
Yeah, what FEMA's clear about is they don't want to,
Right.
they don't want us to use them. They don't want us to use them to bail us out. If we're maintaining our beach and putting sand on our beach, according to the plan, then they're not bailing us out. They're supplementing what we lose. They just don't want to be used as as the only means of renourishment.
Any other questions for Cliff on this topic?
Is that November 22 baseline? Is that static? Like if we make a claim, the restoration goes back to the way it looked in November 22? Or is it updated with each survey?
Updated with each survey.
Anyone else, council?
No, don't have any.
Okay. So it looks to me like you're asking us to approve a motion.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'll make a motion that we adopt the attached Town of Southern Shores Beach Nourishment Project Maintenance Plan as written.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, council. Any further discussion?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, sir. Okay, new business, referral draft comprehensive land use plan to Division of Coastal Management. We have an honored guest with us this evening to present our land use plan update proposal. Hello and welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and council members and members of the public. Tonight, I'm going to go over the draft comprehensive CAMA land use plan.
Just let me interrupt you just real second. I did not announce your name or your company, so jump in and tell us all that information.
Okay, my name is Andrea Radford. I'm with Stewart Incorporated. We are based out of Raleigh. We have locations in Raleigh, Durham, Wilmington, and Columbia, South Carolina. We work with many towns all over the state of North Carolina and South Carolina on comprehensive land use plans and also updating zoning ordinances as well.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I guess I've already done part one. I've introduced myself. So we'll move on to project purpose and schedule, and then I'll review the organization of the document, go over the vision and goals and the changes that have been made to the vision, review the draft future land use map, and review some of the plan recommendations. Realize this document's, I think it's 174 pages long. So we won't go in deep detail of all the recommendations. Of course, I do have a copy of the plan if you have questions. So what is a comprehensive land use plan? A comp plan is a way to collect and agree on a shared community vision. It helps prioritize community goals, choose to guide rezonings and land development decisions. Also, it's mandated by the state as a condition to apply zoning regulations. The state also says that a comprehensive land use plan has to be reasonably maintained. They say that, you know, it's good to have a minor update in 5 years and a major update every 10 years. Comprehensive land use plan also is a document that includes a community conversation about shared goals and values. It also may include some elements like relating to transportation, infrastructure, service utilities, parks and open space, land use, and environment. And because yours serves as a CAMA plan, it also includes land use management topic areas that are required by the Coastal Resource Commission. Also, for those who aren't aware, CAMA stands for Coastal Area Management Act. But like I said, there are 5 land use management topic areas that have to be covered. Those include public access, land use compatibility, infrastructure carrying capacity, natural hazards, and water quality. This just outlines the project schedule. We started this project in September 22 last year. Here we are, September 23, so it's been a year-long process, talking with the community, talking with staff and other stakeholders to put this plan together. Again, this kind of outlines the process. We've spent a lot of time here in the community. We conducted a public survey to kind of analyze your goals from your previous plan to see where you were, what goals have been accomplished, what the community valued, what the vision for the future was. Then after that public survey, we worked on drafting the plan, had a second public meeting, and then made some revisions after that. So we're still kind of in the public review and comment stage, but we're moving closer to the adoption hearings. Your community they responded well. We've got a great response from the survey. We had 583 online responses. Every public meeting we held, the community came out, let us know what they thought about what was being proposed. Like I said, we had 2 public meetings at this Pitt Center here, one in November of last year and one in April of this year. Now to go over some of the document organization. The first chapter kind of introduces you to the process. It also includes the community vision statement and an introduction to the plan. The second chapter goes over community concerns and aspirations. And the third is the assessment. Basically, your existing conditions, demographics, and it also includes some population projections and seasonal population projections as well. The fourth chapter is mainly your environmental conditions, existing conditions. And fifth chapter includes the same vision statement that's included in chapter 1 and the goals and the future land use map. Chapter 6 includes the policy recommendations, strategies and action items. And then you have 3 different appendices. One, the CAMA matrix, which is required for it to be a CAMA plan, the full result from the public survey, and also an endangered species list for Dare County. The document's organized by the vision, which are those broad aspirations for the town. Your goals are more specific aims that relate to topic areas identified through CAMA and public input. You also have recommendations. These are policy statements used to guide staff, boards, and elected officials, and followed by strategies and actions. These are more discrete and specific steps to help you achieve the goals. Also, you'll find a page in the plan that reviews an interpretation of recommendations. There are some definitions provided for interpretation purposes. So when you see the word like consider or continue or encourage, you have a section to refer back to see exactly what that means. Also, there's a list of acronyms on this page because as a planner, we use a lot of acronyms and most people don't know what we're referring to. So it's important to have that list in the plan. Vision and goals. So the vision has changed a little bit since we went to the planning board. I'm not going to read it to you word for word, but I can toggle back and forth to kind of show you what's been changed and talk about it. So basically, the only changes that have been made, it was brought to our attention that we needed to mention canals. So to address that, we added navigable waterways after the words passive and active recreational facilities. And these include the canals, the sound, and the ocean, and the lake as well. And here in the pink here, it said, let's see, what did it say? The town's unique character was changed to the town's unique qualities because the town has many unique qualities. You have 8 draft goals, and they are kind of umbrellaed under planning topic areas, including access to public trust waters, land use compatibility and character, infrastructure carrying capacity in the natural environment, water quality, natural hazards, and transportation and mobility. The draft future land use map, some of the main highlights are really to maintain the existing community character, keep that low density residential area to the north, and keep the commercial areas to the south. On the southern edge, it does recommend pedestrian-friendly, small to medium-scale commercial development, mainly along US 158, and it protects existing conservation and open space, as well as recreational space, including the canals. You have 5 draft character areas. Residential, this is mostly single-family homes, but some typical uses you may see in addition to single-family homes are duplexes, accessory structures, and some occasional religious institutions are included in this. For the recreational, you have privately and town-owned passive and active recreational facilities. That includes the marinas, the canals, recreational paths, and beach and sound access areas. For the municipal and educational, these include government supportive uses like your EMS, your fire stations, town hall, cemetery, and other town-owned properties. Your commercial may include retail, service, and some office-related uses, and may occasionally see some multifamily residential or upper story residential when context appropriate. Your conservation and open space, these are really where your uses, where you may see like utility related uses or recreational paths and habitat preservation. Going into the draft recommendations, you have public trust waters. And one of the main goals here, one of the main policy recommendations is to maintain beach access and coordinate with the SSCA to encourage the maintenance of the privately owned and accessible beach areas. So that's one of the main things. There are some other recommendations within that topic area as well. Under land use compatibility and character, really this is the policy recommendations include preserving the existing low density character of the community, maintaining 20,000 square foot lots wherever possible, and reinforcing the appropriate location for commercial uses along the southern edge. Under infrastructure carrying capacity, really that's encouraging the high quality public facilities, including your town hall, your police department, fire departments, and to continually evaluate lifeguard services to ensure that you have you can meet the town's needs. Your natural hazards, the main policy recommendation under that, I don't want to say the main, but one that really comes to mind is to use the future land use map, storm surge maps, flood exposure maps, wetlands assessment, projected sea level rise. Even though your community will do well with the projected sea level rise, use these maps when making rezoning decisions, whether they're administrative, quasi-judicial, or legislative. Use these maps as a guide. Other things that we heard through the survey were the community character, and really considering too what, as far as commercial standards come to mind there, because we heard a lot about some development that's not within the town limits, but people were concerned about commercial development along the edge and what that may look like. So we have a recommendation to consider enhancing those commercial standards. And this may include like altering building materials, frontage requirements, reduced parking requirements, and may include some landscaping as well. Walkability and accessibility, we've heard a lot about that. There is a pedestrian priority map in the plan that shows where those areas should be prioritized. So from what I hear, we may need to make some additions to that map. So may need some additional guidance on that. And we also have some environmental component recommendations concerning low impact development features to residential and non-residential uses in the plan. You'll also find in the plan an implementation table. This provides a time frame to assist the town in accomplishing its goals. It outlines when action needs to be taken by staff. It's by fiscal years. So if you see the word short term, this is like 1 to 2 years. Medium term is 3 to 5 years. Long term is 6 to 10 years. Like I mentioned, there were some revisions since the planning board. This was not a full list of the revisions that were made, but if you look in the plan as you flip through, the revisions are, depending on whether if you have it in color or in black and white. If it's in black and white, the revisions would be in gray, but if it's in color, the revisions are going to be in pink. And those revisions include updates to the vision, revisions to Chapter 2 to really tie into what we heard from the survey, and inclusion of tree canopy coverage, because we had a policy recommendation that said to review the coverage for maritime forests. We wanted to make sure that we included all the tree canopy coverage within that, and then include all the heavily congested local streets during the summer months. There were 2 sections in the plan that were updated there, and remove non-point wastewater treatment and disposal facilities in Currituck Sound. So next steps are for you to ask questions, provide feedback, and then we'll forward the plan to DCM for a completeness review. I did update staff that we have been receiving completeness reviews fairly quickly. So usually, typically it's within the first 30 days. Sometimes it runs a little bit past 30 days, but we have been getting those reviews back pretty quickly lately. So, are there any questions for me? Do you want to review something more thoroughly?
So I'll just start by talking about the Division of Coastal Management. It seems like when we started this process, there was a feeling that they sat on updates for quite some time. What you're saying now is, it seems like they're getting through the reviews fairly quickly.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, just so.
Because I think we had a figure, a number of 75 days, wasn't it?
Yes. 75 days for the certification process.
Council, does anybody have questions or comments for our land use plan update presentation?
I just have the one, or at least one. We reference other towns in our land use plan. Is there an advantage to that or disadvantage, or what are we gaining by using they as a reference?
Well, typically you'll look to other towns as a guidance when you're making updates to any ordinance updates. And it's not suggesting you copy and paste everything from their zoning ordinance or the way they manage stormwater or any programs that they have. But it's a good idea to look and see what other communities are doing and kind of take ideas from those communities and make them fit your community.
Is there an advantage having it there to obtain approval from the group, CAMA?
No.
Okay, I know that was a discussion at the planning board.
Right.
I just have a couple of sort of specific comments.
Okay.
On the section where you talk about, excuse me, congested streets as it relates to summer traffic, and you made some changes, you added some street names to it, which is on page 16. I think it would be an oversight not to include Sea Oats Trail. Okay, specifically the north end. And then there is a reference on page 36 to where you present the Southern Shores Bicycle and Pedestrian Plan from 2014, and also the Albemarle Regional Bicycle Plan from 2013. But then there's no context for how, or I was not understanding how you just go to the next thing. In other words, you just present those two things, those two reports, and then you go to the next section of the report. I just wondered if since we're seemingly talking about sidewalks and pedestrian safety and bicycle safety, if maybe we ought to add some context to those reports and what they mean and what we're going to do about them, if anything.
Okay. It was my understanding the pedestrian plan for Southern Shores was not adopted. Is that correct?
That is
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, we can, I'll work with staff on this and we can make some revisions to it.
I mean, you include major recommendations out of both of the reports.
Right.
So just for information, which is good.
Correct.
You clearly say that the Southern Shores Plan was not adopted. I don't know about the Albemarle Plan. Do we know if it was adopted?
Yes,
Right?
it was adopted.
Yes.
It was, okay, I'm sorry. So I don't know, it just seemed like you presented it, it's in here, but we didn't talk about what the meaning of it was. And I thought just adding some text might be something to consider.
Okay. Yeah, typically we'll look at the existing plans within the planning area and
Okay.
include kind of a list of major recommendations
Okay.
from those plans.
lastly, because I don't want us to be here all night, on page 58, there's a reference, there's actually two references, that the town of Southern Shores is located on an island. So we're not located on an island. I think maybe we ought to change that wording.
Okay. What page did you say?
Page 58. It is reference to, as you mentioned in your presentation, the storm surge and the model, the computer model that was used, SLOSH, which is a
SLOSH
great
model.
name for a computer model, by the way.
Whoops.
And it says, town of Southern Shores shows many properties located on the south side of the island could be inundated. So, I don't know. It just seems like we're not on an island, so we shouldn't be saying that we are on an island.
Well, I think sometimes we get referred to as a barrier island.
We often get, and don't get me wrong, Hatteras Island is an island, and it is certainly a barrier island, but, you know, we're not on Hatteras Island. So that's just me. Anyway, I'm dominating this, so anyone else would like to speak to the land use plan update?
Well, I'd just like to say this is massive. I mean, this is, and if any members of the public haven't slogged through this, it is really
There's a
a
lot of-
treasure of historic information, of storm surge information. I love the analysis of who lives in Southern Shores, you know, full-time, part-time, who rents. I mean, I don't know where you got all of this from. Well, you cite everything, so that I guess I do know. But it is really an amazing compilation of so much information. That being said, I had a fair amount of time to review the first draft, and with Labor Day weekend and all that, and not getting the second one until Friday, I'd like a little more time, not forever, and not to nitpick, but just to go over this. I think you captured so many of the public comments.
They're all in.
Things, I mean, if you haven't looked through the public comments, they are massive. I mean, just amazing. The implementation schedule is amazing, but I just like a little chance before we submit it to anybody to go through it and look at the red line sections in particular.
I do have another copy. If you want a copy, you can flip through. So I'll
No,
leave it here.
I've already written all over this.
Hers is
one.
all dog-eared.
Okay.
Flipping at it.
We're having these framed and, you know.
You have a color.
published.
You have a color copy. It may be easier.
Yeah.
But this information is really amazing.
Thank you.
Well, there's just a lot of data there to absorb.
A lot of data.
But I think the longer we wait,
Yeah, I don't want to.
It's not much of a departure of what's already on the
No.
book, so I mean, it's.
which I just soon get it over to CAMA.
I found this version versus the August 2 version.
Yeah.
was almost identical except for several words.
In terms of key
And
points.
I read it both, and I found it very, very little change.
Yeah,
Substantive.
substantial.
In the wording. That's my, not to say, Paula, that you don't need more time.
I wouldn't mind a little bit more time either. I was out of town before I just picked this up today. So. I have one specific question and then one general question. Would it be the best way to provide written comment to staff and then section by section, or are we going to discuss this in another meeting? This probably is more a question for the mayor and staff.
Well, if you provide specific directions, like as far as page numbers, like second paragraph,
Yeah.
last sentence, for example, and provide that to staff, and he can get it back to us, and we can make those revisions.
Okay, and then specific question for you, the local concerns section that was cut out and then integrated into other sections,
Correct.
what drove that?
Mainly the goals, because they were under topic areas, and we didn't really have, a lot of the goals covered local concerns, but there wasn't one goal specifically related to the local concerns. So we moved those recommendations to
Into the goals.
into the goals. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think most of them got moved into the land use compatibility and character.
No, they did. They were a little bit more fleshed out in the original format, which is why I asked. Just curious
Okay.
question.
Yeah, I left that in there so you would see that that's been cut out and moved, and I forgot to mention that in the
No, I pieced
presentation,
through,
so.
like where it showed up in other areas. It does show up. I was just trying to track it. I like it all in one spot.
So I'm trying to come up with some sort of compromise here. Would it be possible to authorize staff to take comments from council with their best professional judgment and then forward them to you? And basically, we would come to consensus that based on staff's recommendation, we're going to say it's okay to go to Division of Coastal Management.
Yeah, so you're not taking any action on the plan tonight. We're not
We're not adopting
You're not
it.
No.
adopting the plan, so we're still in the phase where we're still taking comments from the public and from boards and other members.
What will,
Staff.
what will the process be after it gets to CAMA and they make changes? How do we?
So after we get a completeness review back from the DCM staff, we'll incorporate those changes and then we'll come back to you for adoption of the plan.
So,
If there's any major changes, then it will go back to the planning board for them to review.
And from going through it as much as I could this weekend, I don't see that I would recommend any major changes. I think the global issues are fine. I
Yeah.
would like a chance to see some of these, more of the red line areas, just to make sure that I understand them. But I don't need a lot of time.
Okay.
So I think we can move forward
Okay.
with that understanding, realizing that we're not adopting, we're just recommending.
I'm just recommending.
And we'll have opportunity to provide more written comment.
Correct.
Okay.
Maybe have a week or so.
Do you need a motion or is that good enough direction?
They're saying, but yeah, he's
Need a
shaking his
motion.
head yes as a motion.
Yes to a motion. Okay.
Thank you.
Let me see if I can put that into a motion. I would like to move that we authorize staff to incorporate comments from council members and others, and then take that version and submit it to Division of Coastal Management for their review and approval.
I'll second it.
Is that good enough? Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Very good. Okay, thanks. So we tabled sidewalks and but I'm wondering is if we should go ahead and allow for our second general public comment in case anyone else would like to speak, and then get back to sidewalks. So would anyone like to speak? Please come forward, tell us who you are and where you live.
Len Schmitz, I'm on Wax Merrill Trail. Just a couple things about the beach grass planting I forgot to tell. Our group, Better Beaches and the town of Southern Shores, we're planning on doing from Hickory up to 13th Avenue. And I believe the town is going to do the rest from, I think it's Chickahawk Beach up to like 132. And so that's going to start in November. So all volunteers, you're welcome to come help plant from November to February. Second thing is just, I went to this hurricane preparedness down in Manio a couple weeks ago, and they suggested keep pressure on building the Currituck Bridge for beach evacuation during a hurricane. So town council, get that bridge built.
Thanks, Lynn. Anyone else?
One's gone.
Going once? Just kidding. Okay, all right, so, council, we table sidewalks. We're gonna go back to talking about sidewalks. Cliff, do you want to put your recommendation sheet back up there? So we kind of know where you want us, what you think we should do next?
Yeah. Oh. Yeah, so this, and there's always the do nothing option. Nothing says we have to apply for a grant for the sidewalk.
Were you thinking for number 2 and 3, it's general fund this fiscal year? Or
I need to
for
do,
next year?
I just need to do some more. I would like to. I mean,
So we got engineering and surveying and all that.
yeah, I got to make sure I present to you a plan that works.
Yeah.
But
Does 2 and 3 include maintenance?
I'd like to do the maintenance regardless of anything
Yeah,
else we
I
do.
agree with that.
Yeah.
I'd like to do the maintenance now regardless
Yeah.
of nothing else.
Whatever project gets let.
Yeah, we'd have to come from
It
balance.
has to fund balance.
So I think what you're saying is we have a potential contract to let in the next 2 weeks?
2 weeks,
Okay.
21st.
And then are you suggesting that we add on the maintenance to that contract?
If we can, that's what I would like to be able to do.
Okay.
As long as it doesn't push beyond the limit of too much work.
Okay.
And that maintenance is going to be removing asphalt, cutting through the roots, putting concrete, 6-inch concrete pad
Yep.
back.
We're replacing it with concrete.
I didn't hear you.
Sections of the existing asphalt path where the tree roots.
Yeah.
There's technical issues with repaving with asphalt. It's very labor intensive. There's no
Yeah.
machinery that does it. So the easier thing is cut it out and put it back as concrete.
No, I agree with
So it'd
that.
be patchwork.
Put it
as
back as
maintenance.
concrete.
Yeah.
Put it back as concrete,
Got it.
yeah.
Okay, all right.
And that's something
I
that
agree.
the same contractor could do that's
Yeah.
going to build our
That's right.
new section.
Yeah, and it should be simple.
Okay. And the staff would do the survey of, and basically prioritize where we need to do the maintenance?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Well, I think the suggestions that we heard, number 2 and 3, were things I hadn't thought of before, but in terms of connectivity in town, I think they add a lot to be able to walk to Food Line or that commercial area easy, to be able to access Town Hall and the, accessibility there. But you're saying that you're going to come back to us with another plan.
Well, if you wanted to apply for either one of those two, we could do that as well. I mean, the options before you are, we can apply for a grant for any segment of these. But if we were to do just Skyline, with grant funds, then, and you wanted to do Juniper too, we'd have to take that out of general fund. I don't believe the Tourist Bureau would pay for non-contiguous path segments. So it's one application for one of those projects. If you wanted to do something else, it would be outside of the grant funds.
So in Hickory to Hillcrest, you're suggesting consider a tourism grant for next year.
Rather than going to, I think it was 1.62 mile project at once, we split that up over 2 years. But again, if you were to, if a year from now, you may want to do something, there may be a different priority. The timing of this is unfortunate because if we want, we don't have to apply for a tourism board grant, but if we're going to, staff's going to need direction soon, tonight.
Well, we definitely have a number of citizens that have contacted us and spoke at that meeting in favor of more sidewalks in at least some limited areas. And it seems like you've pinpointed the areas that they seem to be most interested in. I mean, Triangle to East Dogwood, that's the one I've heard about for years, but we're doing that one. So
And I guess it also would be possible to do B for the TIG grant and also include the Skyline connector, because it seems like an obvious, one of the themes that we've heard in many emails and also in person is pathways to the beach, whether it be for visitors or residents, make them more walkable, make them more safe, pedestrian safe. And that's something that the Skyline piece would do.
That's right.
By connecting Spindrift.
But as a tourism grant, that's 2 projects, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's two grant requests?
Yeah,
You can have two. There's been people had 2 grant requests in.
we could make 2 separate grant applications and maybe prioritize those.
But we got to keep in mind
I'd rather have the match on the larger project.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
Out of pocket, the smaller one.
And that's
Yeah.
what I was thinking.
Yeah. But I don't mind asking for both.
Well,
I mean-
the-
Well, it might be like, here's your match on the smaller project.
That's right.
So
well,
you're thinking we shoot
I would
ourselves in
do
the foot by?
1B as a tourism grant. And maybe continue the surveying work till Hillcrest and then also initiate surveying on Skyline. And then Juniper, I want to drive by there and take a look at it. There's a lot of good vegetation there.
Yeah.
By my office.
Well, there's a lot of vegetation there, but the day I came by there and there were people on bikes, had to go down, cross, down and back again.
It makes sense on the aerial level, but I mean, I've walked that pretty, anyway,
But from a
I'm
safe,
not as certain about that.
yeah, but from a safety standpoint, keeping pedestrians off of there.
I walk it every day.
I know what you do, but we got to keep in mind our pedestrians and some of our guests don't always think that way.
Yeah, but that's
And the other thing we get, a lot of our
I'm talking
guests,
about the food line section just in front of that commercial office building. not
Yeah.
Skyline.
but the thing we got to keep in mind on the sidewalks, because I saw one of them that, well, I walk out there and the cars will look out for me. You know, most people don't understand that here in North Carolina, and the chief can correct me if I'm wrong, the pedestrian does not have the right of way if they're not in the proper place. It's their responsibility to know where that car is, not the other way around, unless they're in a crosswalk.
Yeah, common decency and the law are two different things in that regard.
Okay, so do we have consensus to direct staff to put together a TIG application for what is referred to up there as the B project?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm
Yes.
good with that.
I think everyone's
That's the
comfortable with
bigger
that.
project.
And then we'll come around and talk about the other things that you have up here later. But for the purpose of meeting our deadline, because I don't know about you, but I like spending other people's money. And I particularly like the idea of putting the tourism board money to work in our community because so much of it is being put into other parts of our lovely county. And I would like our share as well.
Well,
And I
then-
feel, I've always felt really strongly about that. And that hasn't changed.
Well, you just have to ask,
Yeah, we just have to ask. So,
because there was a point in time the town did not request any. We had a real drought from the one on the path on Spindrift till we started again. And if you don't ask, you don't get.
you go.
And that, but you got to remember on that TIG, there are limited funds in there.
Indeed.
Yeah, we may not get anything.
We're not
You guys see
getting
any problem with initiating survey work for 1C and 2? I mean,
No.
while he's out there. Wow.
I think
No,
that's
I
good.
don't.
I don't,
I'd do the survey work. It's general funds and then 2 and 3 is what
Yeah,
we're
wait,
thinking. And I mean, I'm for the Juniper Trail. That thing's a mess. Okay, that's dangerous. I've seen people awful close there. Folks are rolling along there. So, but I think we could do that on 2 and 3. We can find, let's find the general fund somehow.
Okay.
You can put a plan together and come back to us. and
Yes,
talk
sir.
about it.
Well, and even though I'm not a big fan of having sidewalks on both sides of Duck Road, the only other alternative is to put more crossovers on Route 12, and I don't think that's a great idea either.
What are you talking about, an elevated crossover or?
no,
No,
crosswalks.
just crosswalks,
An illegal crosswalk.
To walk on the.
just because people on that side of the road have a hard time getting.
Oh, yeah.
getting across
I
the
mean, I
bridge,
walk
right.
up that way on Sunday, you see people coming down
Right,
the east side and there's no sidewalk.
right.
Okay, so do you need a motion, sir?
I think consensus to be able to make the application.
Okay,
Yes.
all right.
You've got it.
You got what you needed. Okay. All right then.
I have one more question.
Yes, sir.
On the solar lights on the crosswalks we have, are we gonna do anything? Half of them don't work.
Well,
That's a dark road at night on 12. I don't know. I don't have an idea. Maybe it's just something we
We
need to do
had-
for next year, capital improvements or something.
I need to resurvey. At one point, we replaced a lot recently.
Okay.
Now, if there's still some out, then it could be good ones going bad that fast. So I need to
I'll drive it
resurvey.
at 10 o'clock some night.
Okay.
Do that again. Okay. I mean, it's a dark road.
Yeah, yeah. And that, we may get to the point where we put the old fashioned street light back.
I know.
It's more
We don't want
reliable.
that either, we heard that, so.
But for now, they're
Kitty
supposed
Hawk,
to.
there in Kitty Hawk, now they've got,
Across the
yeah, and
flashing.
it starts flashing when there's somebody in the area.
By solar?
I guess it's so, I don't know.
I don't know.
But I've seen it,
Right by Black Pelican, I think.
yes.
So we're doing I'm confused. We're
Yes,
doing A.
summarizing, we're doing A.
Summarizing, we're doing A.
That's already there.
We're going to do the site work on B, B.
B is to apply for the grant.
B is apply for the grant. C, we're start doing the site work on that, right, Matt? That's what we talked about. That's Skyline. Oh,
Site work,
I guess solar, yeah, I call it site work, but.
it's the
Engineering.
engineering part of it,
Yeah,
site work.
and
is
then
when-
the Juniper Trail, we'll just see what happens with that. Okay.
Thank
And
Okay.
you're going to look at the general fund.
He'll bring it
see where
back
we're
to
at.
us.
All right. Is that
Okay,
right? We good?
I think we're all good on that subject. Council business. I'll start with our next meeting is October the 3rd. And I will not be here. So Mayor Pro Tem Matt Neal will be in charge,
He moves over a
Couple
conducting the
seats.
meeting.
He moves over a couple seats.
And I just want to thank our police department for their excellent, all of their excellent training and sharing all that information with us. And Chief Limbacher's gone, but the fire department folks, with all the big fires that we had, just can't express my gratitude enough. Mark,
I'm good. Nothing.
Leo,
Well, I'll give you some update on tourism information. This is through June. Our occupancy was up a mere, for the month, 0.23%. Current year date is off 2.27%. But we're doing a good job on eating because June meals was up a little over 9%. And current year to date is 6.32%. You may have seen in the Outer Banks Voice, the information for 2022 that the state provided. The state itself, over 33.3 billion in visitor spending in 2022. That was a record. And Dare County ranks number 4 behind Mecklenburg, Wake, and Buncombe counties. So indicates that visitor spending brought in 140 million in state and local taxes in Dare County. And I know people get aggravated about our guests being here, but as a result, our tax savings is $3,700 per county resident. So that's where we are. And there was an article in, I think, Sunday's paper for 2023. Everybody's starting to experience a decline. We're not going to see these numbers that were in 2022. We aren't going to see those in 2023 at this point, from what the trends are at this point. Now, we do have, some of you may have been involved a little bit. It's the long-term tourism management plan, which is a 10-year plan that the tourism board is trying to put together, how we can figure out for tourists and the locals to be able to work together on various projects. And so what has happened, some of you may know Jeff Schwarzenberg. He has been hired to manage that program. And based on what we talked about here in August, the committee he'll be heading up is going to be, there's going to be about 19 people involved. So he's going to be like herding cats there. But he's well qualified. If you remember, he owned the Ocean Boulevard yogurt place over here. And then he just left Kellogg in Duck. And I know him, so he's well qualified and wanted to get back into the tourism business. And that's on our next meeting here is the third Thursday.
of the tourism board.
Yes.
Correct. Thanks, Leo. Matt?
No comment. Thank you for the police when walking our kids into school. I told the chief last week. Pretty special, given all your active shooter concerns and whatnot, to be able to let parents walk in. Pretty special moment, first day of school. Thank you, guys.
I'd just like to make one more comment. And this revolves around the land use plan. I'd like to thank everybody that was on the planning board that did review that whole plan item by item by item. So and they spent a lot of time on it, and I think we need to thank them for their efforts.
Very good. I'm sorry. Matt, anything else? Paula?
I just ditto the thanks to the fire and police departments for all their hard work. And especially that night when I heard sirens going off to the north and to the south, I knew everybody was pretty busy.
Very good. Hearing no more discussion or comments, I'll call for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.